Hey.
Hey, welcome to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I'm your host, Dwan Twyford. I'm America's most sought after real estate investor. And I am so excited to have you on my podcast today. So our motto at Dwanderful is people before profits. So if that resonates with you, you're at the right place, the right time. I'm your person. And we have this podcast to help you get the competitive edge that you've been missing so that you can become a real estate rock star, like a real straight up real estate rock star. And my motto for 2022 has always been a new you in 22. And it's not too late. We're still in October. You got October, November, and December. You still got plenty of time to get started in investing, get some deals closed. Short sales are going to be heavy in the next couple months. So we'll talk about it. And if you have still been like thinking, watching webinars, going to workshops, haven't made a decision yet, it's time. It is time for you to get cracking and start making something happen. Like, this is it. 2022 is almost over. Don't let another year pass without you jumping into real estate investing. Come on. What are you waiting for? You have me. You have this crazy market that we're in right now. Like, things have never been better for real estate investors. It is crazy. The website is Dwanderful, Dwanderful, Dwanderful.com. And I always like to do a check-in. So welcome back. My first show, the first week of October, I was a little rambly. And last week, my computer just literally cut off because it said I had no space left on my entire computer. So it was a really quick ending. And I was like, what do you mean my computer is full? So I have like this badass gaming computer that Bill bought for me. That's because it has like graphics and it's got all this great everything. And I literally had no more space to even like at the end of the podcast, it went just boop and it said your computer's full. So I had to do all that stuff where you frag it and I don't know. I took my time. I did it nice and slow. I Googled it before I did it. I took a bunch of stuff off my computer on a little, not a little flash drive, like a big old thing. And I opened up some gigabytes. So I guess it's going to be time for me to be getting myself a new computer. But I really like this one. I've had it for like 3 or 4 years now. It's an Asus gaming computer. And it's great. But it is, I got to tell you though, it's heavy. Like, it's no joke. It is heavy. And normally when Bill travels with me, that's fine because he has to carry it all the time. But since I'm traveling by myself, it's like, okay, all my stuff's really heavy. And so I had to yeah, I'm still at the hotel. I was here. I'm doing all my podcasts for October while I'm here in Atlanta at the hotel. And my bag is heavy. My computer bag is heavy. My computer's heavy. I travel with all this stuff. Everything's so heavy. Now I have got to like lighten the load. And I just bought a bunch of clothes that'll be here tomorrow. Because now that I'm out, I wanted to have some new clothes. So I'm going to have to literally put some stuff in a box and mail it back because I only have one suitcase. I mean, I guess I'll buy one, but I'm going to Florida, so I'm just going to send it back with my son when he comes here this weekend. He goes back. I'm going to load about 20 pounds of stuff in his suitcase to take back so I can like go to Florida with a bag that's not going to break my back. Oh, it's crazy. All right, so we always like to start off. I'm having some water. I learned something during the whole thing with Bill, the stem cell thing. They don't like you to drink. I went through way back in March. I went through the binder and read a bunch of stuff to you guys. That the water was really interesting because they said we could drink. They actually preferred us to drink tap water because the Denver tap water has been like super highly chlorinated. But like I can taste the chlorine in water like that. So we weren't allowed to drink any spring water or anything because it's full of bacteria. It's not necessary. It doesn't have the bacteria killed. And Dasani and Aquafina were the two waters that it said they've been cleansed. And I can't remember what it's called. It's in my binder somewhere by some organization that makes sure the water is purified to a certain content. So I don't know if that just means the water is like chlorinated to death or if it's actually better for you. But Dasani and Aquafina, so we always start off with a toast. So cheers. Glad to see you today. We're the only waters, all the spring waters in the Fiji and all the stuff like that. It was all on the list of things not to be able to have because they said it's not cleaned, or the way they clean it doesn't thoroughly get rid of all the bacteria. So we've been drinking Dasani and Aquafina, which I like anyway. And the first few days they were like, "Oh, you should just drink the tap water." But I tasted tap water in Denver. It's like, ugh. It's like, I don't know. Tap water to me tastes too chlorinated. Now we have a house in Florida. The tap water there is super terrible. It's like, what? Our water at our house in the mountains is good, but it's mountain, like straight up out of the well. So it's full of whatever little amoebas are in the earth are in your water. And normally that's fine. But with Bill in his situation and the stem cell transplant, that's another one of the reasons we couldn't live at the house, because he can't even shower in that water. So I'm telling you, I have learned a wealth of information about things that I wish I never knew about because the only way you learn about some of these things is because you're in the field or it happens to someone that you love. And the whole myelofibrosis, the whole stem cell transplant, the whole, okay, a light just came on somewhere. Am I tripping or did a light just come on? Okay, maybe a cloud moved. I am in my hotel room. I don't have my light kit with me, so I'm by the window. So as long as it stays daylight, I'll be able to do my podcast today. All right. So anyway, it is really something. So we start out, we have a toast, we say hi. I tell you, just take a stretch. Oh, I love this chair I'm in. This chair goes so far back. I keep worrying I'm going to flip this chair over and fall back on my head. I laid back the first day. It's like, whoa, take a nice stretch. It's good for you. Take a couple deep breaths, kind of clear your head, get ready for learning and fun and action. We have a lot of action today. I'd like to start off reading a couple of 5-star reviews. And this one says a 5 stars. It says a wealth of information. Dwan is so awesome and such a genuine soul. I always feel so inspired after listening to her. Lots of laughter and a lot to learn and grow. And making it part of my schedule. Mary Pitcher from the United States. Thank you, Mary. Oh, I like that. It's good for your soul. I'm a genuine soul. I am a genuine soul. I really am. I'll tell you one thing. This whole thing I told you all a couple weeks ago. You learn a lot about people when you're going through something like what Bill's going through. And there are so many people that are just so fake. So fake. So many fakers and people that are like, I call them all frenemies. They're like your friends, but secretly they're jealous of you. So they're like an enemy, but they want to be a friend. So like a frenemy. And a shocking amount of people, which is too bad, are just off my list of like, no, I'm never working with you again ever, because you are deep down a frenemy. And that's okay. It doesn't even, weirdly enough, doesn't even hurt my feelings. Sometimes you just need some clarity. And some family members too are like, see you when I see you, but not unless I have to. Y'all know who you are. All right. Another great 5-star review. 5 stars. This is inspiring. Give it a listen. I love how personable Dwan is. She makes me feel like we're all sitting in one living room having a chat. Aw, thank you. She has a way of making you feel visible because her content always has a way to speak to you. Her guests are always quality and she asks great questions. I love this podcast. Patricia Davis from the United States. Thank you. Yeah, I really like that. I do. I try to make it like we're all just like hanging out. We're having some drinks, we're hanging out, we're talking about real estate investing. It is actually my goal of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever, is to make it feel like we're all just sort of hanging out and we're talking about real estate. And I'm helping you learn all the things I've learned over the last 30 years so you also can be successful. So I really like that one. Those are really 2 great shows. So that was from Mary and Patricia. Thank you, girls. Forever in my heart. All right, so today we're going to talk about the banks. Now I am telling you, and it was funny. I was looking online the last few weeks and looking at some of the cycles, and basically about every decade there's a big real estate cycle. So there was one in the 90s, in the late 90s, but I was just kind of still newer to investing, and I was too new to even understand that we were in some kind of a cycle. And then the next one was like the 2000, like 7, 8, 9, 10, like that whole giant crash heard around the world. And then now we're in this cycle now. So this is like my third real estate cycle I've been in. Well, that's about right. Every decade. So that is about right. I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos this week about real estate cycles. And so the first one that came around, I was too new of an investor to know that we were in a cycle. So nothing affected the way I did any business because I was just out there plugging away, closing deals left and right, not caring about a cycle or what a cycle is or what does that mean. I didn't even know. Didn't even matter. And it still doesn't matter. The next cycle I knew was coming because of all those interest only loans. So that big giant crash in like 8, 9, 10, I had told all my students, like, how many rentals do you need to sell to pay the other ones off? The markets are going to crash. Sell anything you want to get rid of now. If you want to buy more stuff, wait, because everything's going to go down. And a bunch of students actually listened to me. And it's interesting, last week I saw John, one of my favorite students. He's been working with us for like, I don't even know, 15 or 20 years now. And he was one of the people back then that I said, hey, listen, you own a bunch of rentals and you've got them all mortgaged. So how many do you need to sell to pay off the other ones so you can ride out this next cycle? And so he had, I'm thinking around 60-ish. And he sold, I don't know, maybe 10, and he paid all the rest off, and he kind of went through that whole crazy thing of the last cycle. And I just saw him in Tampa just recently, and he has 140 rentals now. So since then till now, he's just more and more and more, and he's just rehabbing and doing rentals and keeping everything. And most of the stuff he does is all paid for. And he drove me around in his vet. He's got all the cars and all the stuff, and just like lives in a regular old normal house in a regular old normal neighborhood, kind of like The Millionaire Next Door. It's a great book if you haven't read it, The Millionaire Next Door. And it's up to like 140 rentals now. And in the last cycle was down to under 50, so added quite a bit. And so this that we're in right now, I don't know. I mean, if the real estate does like a really heavy, hard, like explosion, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know, I would not be surprised. Like, I feel like I know for a fact that the banks are done. They're just like, we're done. That's it. Time out. We are done working with homeowners. We're done with loan modifications. We're done with forbearance agreements. We're done. We're taking houses back basically at warp speed. I know a few people that are really heavy into the loss mitigation side. Some of these banks have hired up to 75% more attorneys to push houses through the foreclosure, opposed to hiring more loss mitigation people to help homeowners solve their problems. So when a bank hires like 75% more attorneys because they want to get these houses off their books as quick as they can, opposed to hiring more loss mitigation who helps the homeowners in distress work things out, that tells me that the banks are fed up. And so a couple of people that I spent some time with in the last couple of weekends, they do, I think she said that they have like anywhere from like 750 to 1,000 files on any given day. And they have to literally touch every single solitary file. They have to push it through to foreclosure or loan mod, forbearance, whatever has to be done. Everything's got to get pushed through. And she's like, you cannot believe, Dwan, how much business we have. So her and her husband, he is also in loss mitigation. He helps people get refinanced and get loans and things like that. And she helps just push people through with the loan mods and the forbearance. Neither one of them work in the actual short sale department. But it was just interesting to listen to them talk because they're in the business, like full-time, both of them, two different banks, and both in loss mitigation, both doing completely different things, and both just completely inundated with the amount of foreclosures that they have. And they said, no, the banks are done. They're hiring more and more attorneys every single solitary day to push all the foreclosures through faster. So that may, I don't know, it's really kind of hard to predict. Like the last one, everyone bought interest-only houses, interest-only loans, and then they all had to, refinance at the exact same time. Like that was so obvious. I remember thinking, like, who in the banking industry said this is a great idea? Let's have all these millions of people have interest-only loans for 2 years, and they all have to refinance at the exact same time. And they're all going to put their houses on the market and list them all at the same time, and the whole entire housing bubble is going to crash and burn. So, I mean, I felt like that was really obvious, but apparently it was not. I don't know, to the power that they should have me on whatever board they're doing to come up with all these loans and things that they do. But with everything right now, with the loan modifications and the nationwide forbearance agreement, all those things being done, what I'm finding, especially because I told you I've been door knocking, what I'm finding is that the banks are being really aggressive, like not normal, like bank aggression, but like super aggressive. Every homeowner I've worked with in the last 2 or 3 months, not one single bank was going to move the foreclosure sale date. And that has never happened in the whole 30 years I've been investing. Usually if you have a contract, you can at least get them to postpone the foreclosure sale a week or two. And not one single bank has done an extension. I'm making a note to myself so I can talk more about this extensions. Not one. And that is honestly, I've never seen a market where the banks weren't semi-willing to work with homeowners. But you got to remember, during COVID, all of 2020 and 2021, during all that, homeowners were in that nationwide forbearance agreement that they thought it's going to be a great idea. People don't have to make mortgage payments. And some of the people I've worked with in the last couple of months put a glass enclosure on their house so they're making the mortgage payments. A couple people, them and their spouses, they bought brand new trucks, like brand spanking new, $80,000 trucks, not making the mortgage payments. And it's like, I don't know what people thought. If people just thought like, oh, the bank will just take the payments and put them on the end, I'll just make the next payment. And I think that is what everybody thought would happen, but that's not how a forbearance agreement works. You all know we've talked about forbearance agreements 100 times on this show. So if you go back and look at any of my titles with the word forbearance in them, you can go back and learn and listen and talk about it. But a forbearance agreement, typically, the bank doesn't just stick all the payments on the back. They take some of the payments maybe on the back, you pay some money up front, and then they take what's left and divide it, and they add it on top of your payment, so your payment gets higher. But here's what's happened. When there's a long stretch, like a 1.5 to 2 year stretch, where people are getting money from the government and they're literally living their life now without a mortgage payment, and they're not used to making a mortgage payment, when they have to start making mortgage payments all of a sudden, they feel like they can't make it happen anymore. I told you all this before, and if you've been watching the show if you haven't been watching me since the beginning, go back. I am definitely binge worthy. But in 2020, when the lockdown started, we were in our Florida house in March of 2020. And I kept telling people on the podcast, like, oh my gosh, the trash pickup comes through the subdesignated community. And they have a big claw on Mondays, every Monday. And there's nothing but like refrigerators and boxes and old appliances and boxes and boxes and boxes, the most biggest TVs you've ever seen in your entire life. And all these people getting new cars and vehicles. And I was like, I don't know, people need to not do that. I told all of you, remember, I said, do not miss your mortgage payments. It was 2 years ago. I said 100 times, do not miss your mortgage payments. Do whatever you can to make your mortgage payment. And people didn't. And so now people did buy new furniture and new appliances and new trucks. And they got all kinds of money from the government. And now all that stuff's done. And a lot of people are not with the same job, and they maybe have a job making a little bit less even. or they happen to work 2 jobs to make things work, and now they have to start making their mortgage payments again. And so, like, the one woman we've been working with, her mortgage payment was $1,900 a month, and she's 28 payments behind. So 1,900. I don't even know what that is. Times 28, that's a lot of damn money. But what happened is people are used to living without that payment. So now when they have to suddenly make the payment, they're like, well, I can't pay for all the other stuff. But if you didn't have all the other stuff, you could make the mortgage payment. And so the banks, and I told you this a couple weeks ago. I just like the paper that the homeowners get that says, hey, this is it, here's your loan number. I just call that number just directly, just to see what the banks are saying. I have contacts in every bank. But if I call my contacts, they're just going to be, oh, yeah, sure, Dwan, here's your deal. I just want to see what the new loss mitigation reps are saying. So even if you've been doing something for a long time, change up the way you do things. So I want to see what the new loss mitigation reps are saying. And they're like, we mailed this homeowner a forbearance agreement. One person, they go, we mailed them 3 forbearance agreements. Another person says we mailed them 2. Another bank's like, and they have a record on these dates. We left messages. They were put into the auto dialer, like they've been getting dialed. And the homeowners are not calling back. They're not getting in touch with the banks. They're getting these packets in the mail, and they go, oh, I can't afford that, and they're just throwing it away. But the bank counts that as an attempt. That's an attempt, okay? So when the bank is attempting to work something out with the homeowners and they just keep throwing it away because they're like, oh, I can't afford that, the banks are done. Like, they are fully baked, done, fried, whatever word you use, they are done. And they are showing no mercy to the homeowners. And it was really, honestly, it is one of the first times I've ever seen the banks be aggressive to the level that they are right now. I even had one bank rep. And I know loss mitigation, they're not supposed to curse. And this guy's like, he's like, I'm so fucking done with these homeowners. We mail them this, we mail them that. Now they're calling trying to make payments. He goes, we're done. And I was just like, do you hate your job much? Like, what's happening right now? And these people in the bank are just angry, and they're cursing, and they're pissed off. And they're like, no, we're just done. And the banks are just hiring more and more and more attorneys. So what's going to happen is when banks are hiring 75% more attorneys, I don't know how many they have exactly per bank, but when you hire 75% more than you have, that's to aggressively push houses into foreclosure. So at some point, you have too many people going into foreclosure. Investors will certainly fill some of the void. Homeowners looking for who paid things on time will probably snap up some rentals and things like that. But there's going to be a point somewhere, there's a tipping point where there's too many people in foreclosure at the same time. So the market usually goes down. Now, prices are already falling. We all know that. Prices are already falling. Interest rates are still supposed to go up a little bit more. And you're coming up into the fall and the holidays, and then a new year. So I feel like for investors, this is really an unbelievable market. It's truly an unbelievable market for real estate investors. Like, truly, if you've been thinking, you need to go to Dwanderful.com. You need to opt in. You need to get on my webinar. You need to learn about how to wholesale houses. In fact, my webinar link will be in the show notes. You need to be listening to my webinar. You really need to be on it, because this market, however many years it takes for this to settle, it just starts over again. And then the prices are here, then they go up, and then they go up, and 10 years, and then they topple off on the other side again. So we're on a teeter where prices were climbing, now prices are going down. So this is like the little teeter-totter. Remember the little teeter-totters that we have when we were kids? I don't think kids today, y'all have no idea all the great things we had at the playground. Like, we had these giant monkey bars that were metal, like hot. These slides that were like 80 feet long, metal. I mean, I remember one time in the parking lot, I fell off one of the monkey bars and I literally died. And my parents were like, walk it off. So now you're on a little plastic teeter-totter, so you don't know the true fear and thrill of going down the other side. That's where the real estate market's at. We are right here, and it's teetering. And I don't know how hard the crash is going to be. I really don't know. I feel like I should predict exactly, but the fact that the banks are hiring so many attorneys and pushing foreclosures through, I just don't know how many investors are out there that will step up. And if every investor I know across the whole country would all step up and buy a bunch of rentals, and all the homeowners who've been thinking about it got in and bought a bunch of rentals, it could really save the market for sure. But I will tell you this, as a real estate investor, if you've been thinking, you need to stop thinking. You need to get off that fence and you need to start doing. Because the market that you have before you right now, unless we have some other crazy pandemic kind of a thing, I mean, we'll never see a market like this one. So this is a crazy market. I mean, I know it's terrible. People are losing their houses. I get it. And I get COVID was an awful thing. But I got to tell you, in the last couple of years, personally, my husband's been able to take the time and get the bone marrow transplant, and I've been able to deal with my rheumatoid and my diagnosis. I don't ever claim it, just my diagnosis. And we've been able to reorganize things and been able to buy buildings for like next to nothing. And for the people that are in the know, times like this are amazing times to gain wealth. So this is your time to gain your wealth. All right, so the life equity this week, I want to try and wrap up all my podcasts right at the 30-minute mark. As you know, since I started, I was at an hour, then I did 45 minutes, then I did 15, then I did 20, then I did 10, then I did 30. And apparently the best time for a podcast is 30 minutes, because if people are going for a walk or a hike or a drive or to or from, 30 minutes is a good, like you can listen to it wherever you're at. So I'm going to really stay on task here. I even have a timer set for myself. I'm going to stay on task at the 30-minute mark, even if I have to just go like, okay, bye. So the life equity this week is financial. And I've told you guys this before, but I want you to do this. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to give you a new assignment because it's October. One of the things that we always do is we work with the homeless in Denver. And as the weather starts to change across the country, there are a lot of people in the homeless society that don't have socks and underwear and sleeping bags and jackets and things like that. And a lot of these people even have that stuff in the winter, and then they give it away in the spring and the summer because they can't carry everything. So this time of year, we always get our RIA group together, and we go down and make lots and lots of goodie bags for the homeless people. So I'm gonna challenge you to donate clothes or time or supplies to your local homeless shelter. Time or supplies or clothes. So I'm gonna write down time. I'm gonna check back on you, say you did, and supplies. But homeless people need things like at the homeless shelters, they have showers, but there's no soap, there's no shampoo, it's just water. So the people have to have everything. So they need toothbrushes, toothpaste, they need shampoo, conditioner. You can go to the dollar store and buy little samples. Every hotel I go to, I take all the samples of everything every day. I load up all the samples every day, and I take those things, and when I make little goodie bags, I put all this stuff in, because I stay at hotels all the time. So every single day, I'm like, I need new stuff every day. And they're probably thinking like, why does she need a bar of soap every single day? Why does she need a bottle of shampoo every single day? But I keep it all, and when we put our goodie bags together, I pass it forward and on to the people at the homeless shelters. So I'm going to challenge you to go through your closets, go through your clothes, go through your shoes, your boots, coats, things that you're not using, or to go to the dollar store and spend maybe $100 or $200 and buy some simple things, little razors or shampoo or toothbrush, or just whatever, and take them down. And if you don't feel comfortable like physically giving them to the homeless people directly, which is what we do, and they're the nicest people in the whole world, and their stories are so unbelievable. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can take things to the shelter and they will help do that. So since it is the fall and the weather's getting chilly around the country, I'm going to challenge you to do something for the homeless people in your area. And if you have a church or an organization that you belong to, or something, your kids are in school, try and maybe just do like a coat drive or do something. Oh, there we go. We're back to the music. That's like my tropical music. Okay, that tells me my 30 minutes are up. So go to Dwanderful.com, opt in, you'll get ebooks, 4 free ebooks. Listen to my webinar. I want you to do me a favor. Will you do me a favor? Go to Apple and find the podcast, subscribe, leave me a 5-star review. You leave a good 5-star review, I might read your review, but I can't read it if you don't leave it. And podcasting is definitely a labor of love. People that like me that do it, we really want to help educate and help everyone with their finances and their financial freedom and changing your generational wealth. And that can only happen if you also help me. So 5-star reviews, subscribe, listen, share. I can't do it without you. All right, so we'll be back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. And remember that the truth is in the red letters. Okay, ciao.